Good morning, everyone. I am Lovely Grace Sampaga, and for today's video, I'm going to discuss to you about language and thoughts. So, what is language and thoughts? Language. Language is the method of human communication, either spoken or written, consisting of the use of words in particular country or community. Thoughts. An idea or opinion produced by thinking or occurring suddenly in mind. It is also the action of process of thinking. Language and thoughts. Classical theorists like Plato and Aristotle argued that the categories of thought determine the categories of language. To them, language is only the outward form of expression of thought. Another view was expressed by the behaviorist J.B. Watson, an American psychologist and the founder of behaviorism. According to him, thought is language. He believed that the thought is as a vocal speech, that is, when we think aloud, it is called speech, and when we speak covertly, it is called thinking. A less radical position is that language determines thought. According to this view, the categories of thought are determined by linguistic categories. Theorists within this group are divided between those who think that language completely determines cognitive categories, and those who merely say that language strongly influences cognitive categories. The main use of language is to transfer thoughts from one mind to another mind. Language neither creates nor distorts conceptual life. Thought comes first, while language is an expression. There are certain limitations among language, and humans cannot express all that they think. The bits of linguistic information that enter into one person's mind from another cause people to entertain a new thought with profound effects. Language of thought theories rely on the belief that mental representation has linguistic structure. Thoughts are sentences in the head, meaning they take place within a mental language. And on the opposing side, there are language of thought theories, or LUTH, the language of thought hypothesis, which believe that public language is essential to private thought. LUTH theories address the debate of whether thought is possible without language, which is related to the question of whether language evolved for thought. These ideas are difficult to study because it proves challenging to parse the effects of culture versus thought versus language in all academic fields. So we have two theories work in support of the language of thought theory. The first one is the causal syntactic theory of mental. That means practices hypothesizes that mental processes are causal processes defined over the syntax of mental representations. The second one is the representational theory of mind. Hypothesizes that propositional attitudes are relations between subjects and mental representations. Fox psychology routinely explains and predicts behavior by citing mental states, including beliefs, desires, intentions, fears, hopes, and so on. To explain why Mary walked to the refrigerator, we might note that she believed there was orange juice in the refrigerator. and wanted to drink orange juice. Mental states such as belief and desire are called propositional attitudes. In tandem, these theories explain how the brain can produce rational thought and behavior. The possible relationship between language and thoughts. Piaget's theory, language depends on thought, while the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, thinking depends on language. Piaget's theory. Piaget suggests an understanding of a concept needs to come first, development of a schema. Only after that can a child start to express their thoughts in words. Meaning, children use their existing knowledge of words to develop their language skills. Schema. We develop a mental cognitive packages of information about objects or phenomena in the world. Schemas are built from our experience with these objects. Children can only start to use language correctly when they have grown to a certain stage of cognitive development. They may be able to imitate words, but won't be using the word in communication until they understand it. Stages of language development. The first one is the sensory motor stage. Babies are first learning on how to control their bodies, such as vocalizations and imitating sounds. Second, pre-operational stage. Children can voice their thoughts but struggle to use language effectively to communicate. The third one is concrete operational stage. Children can use language well, but only to talk about actual things like objects they see, use, and interact with counting on fingers. The last one is the formal operational stage. Children can use language to talk about abstract ideas, like logic problems. Piaget suggests not all people get to the formal operational stage. Piaget's theory appears to match real-world observation of childhood language development. Babies may imitate words, but they are nonsense and can't use them to communicate unless they have a schema. Children will be corrected on mistakes they make with language. This can be seen as schema development. Piaget could be argued to have face validity. There is not a significant amount of research evidence to support Piaget's ideas. This is partly due to the difficulty in objectively studying internal cognitive processes, such as schemas, especially in participants who cannot self-report. The notion that language influences thought has a long history in a variety of fields. There are two bodies of thought forming around this debate. One body of thought stems for linguistics and is known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis has more experimental evidence suggesting that how we think and perceive the world depends on words we use. There is a strong and weak version of the hypothesis which argue for more or less influence of language on thought. The two concepts of Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. The first one is linguistic determinism or a strong version. Language determines thought. Different languages impose different conceptions of reality. The idea that language and its structures limit and determine human knowledge or thought, as well as thought processes such as categorization, memory, and perception. Wolf states that language does not only voice ideas but also shapes them. The child knowledge is socially constructed in interaction with adults, so child logic develops only with the growth of child social speech. The second one is the linguistic relativity, which is the weak version. Language influences thinking. Linguistic differences between cultures are associated with cultural differences in thinking. Accordingly, the mental universe of an English speaker may be different from that of a Chinese speaker because they happen to speak different languages. Speakers of different language perceive the world differently and resulting cognitive systems are different. Example, in Chinese, there is only single term lutuo. In English, there is camel. But in Arabic, there are more than 400 words for the animal. Eskimo language has a large number of words involving snow. For example, apan, that means snow on the ground. Utak, that means block of snow. And kwanika, that means hard snow on the ground.